This is Fantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, what's up, Kitten? This is Steven, your host with Fantology Podcast. I have my lifelong friend Jake on, and we have a very special guest, the Principalis himself, James Islington, has joined us to discuss the strength of the few. We're going to make this a two-part episode. So first part, which will come out before the book has been released, is going to be no spoilers. We'll talk about the Will of the Many a bit and just kind of writing in general, the hierarchy, etc. And then part two, which will come out after the strength of the few is out, we'll have some spoiler chat with James. So hopefully you're enjoying part one here, and then I look forward to part two after November 11th when the much anticipated book two of the hierarchy comes out. So
Yeah,
yeah,
welcome.
James, thanks for joining. It's been a couple
Thank
years.
you.
We did an interview with you. Well, it was like shortly after Will of the Many came out, I want to say, or maybe it was before. But
Might have
that
been
has
just
been
before, yeah.
consistently, yeah, that's been consistently one of our most commented on interviews. People really enjoyed that one.
Nice.
Um, even people I've kind of met in the wild have tuned in and they've been interested in that one. So we're excited to have you back on and appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So let's start by talking about what fans can look forward to in book two. So we are at time of recording 2 weeks away from
Yep.
release. Jake and I have actually read the book already, but we're not going to do spoilers quite yet. But for people who were big fans of the Will of the Many, what would you say, how is book two going to be different, if at all, or what should people's expectations be?
Yeah, sure. Um, yeah, well, I mean, it's funny because, it's kicking off the non-spoiler part with
Yeah.
probably one of the hardest questions to answer in a non-spoilery way.
Yeah.
Yep,
But
not fair.
but that's okay. No, I'd say that probably the biggest change, one of the changes is structural. There's to say that there's more points of view. And if you've read the end of the Will of the Many, you might have a suspicion of how that might go. Um, but it also, I think it's just broader in scope. I think it expands the scope of the story a lot. I think book one was really focused on Vis and his kind of struggle to survive in the hierarchy. It was really focused on that and his working his way through the academy. Book two really, that stage is now over, that arc is now over, and now this is more, I guess the meat of the series, I guess.
Mm.
It's getting into the wider story, the bigger things going on they weren't background in Will of the Many, but they weren't necessarily the focus in Will of the Many. So yeah, I think it's more of an expansion of the story in book two.
S- So definitely from like reading for those, I assume we're doing full Will of the Many spoilers for everyone
Yeah,
listening. We got to do
we are
that.
going to do those.
At
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
stage.
So yeah, it ends with like a pretty big twist, and not just like a twist, but like a unveiling of the world and like the plot itself. And like you said, that was more background in the first one. When you were, I just had this question come to mind. But when you were first like sketching out this series, did you have the Academy idea first, or this like deeper unveil, the thing that was unveiled at the end of Will of the Mini, was that more of the central idea that was part of the creative process?
Yeah, it was the ending of the Will of the Many was very much one of the foundational ideas of the series. Which it's obviously, like I said, it's very structural. It's got deep implications going forward. So you kind of
Mhm.
hope that I'd planned it out. But
Yeah, I guess I meant more in like the very beginning of the creative process. But
No,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. No, it was very much at the very start of the creative process. There was one of the very first things that I decided that I wanted to do. And the academy side of it came in um not as a secondary idea, but it came about because I really wanted to focus on um I guess building this as a character in this first book,
Hmm.
Mm,
with the ending of Will of the Many in mind, and then moving forward. And so that just felt like uh, a great way of doing that. And it's a very familiar setting as well. I think it's immediately relatable. I think it's great for a
mm,
Yeah.
book one where it just lets you don't having to explain so much of the world. Everybody kind of understands how a school works. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it makes sense as a vehicle to kind of establish stuff and people latch on to that trope. Like that's one of my favorite tropes in fantasy. Anything with the magic school,
yeah,
I'm probably gonna, at least give it a shot just knowing it's got
absolutely.
that. So with the expansion of scope, was this second book harder to write, longer to write? Are you having to juggle more things as we get further into the series?
Yeah, I mean, totally. Um it was definitely harder to write. I think it took me, it's always hard to judge time writing. In pure terms of when I started and when I finished, I'd say it was about 6 months longer than the first book.
Mm,
But I go through periods of um, great productivity and like head down. I know the last 6 months of Strength of the Few, I was just head down. I was sort of doing evenings as well, just partly because I was behind and I really wanted to make sure that I got it in relatively on time. But also just because it was towards the end and I was into it. Um, but yeah, I'd say Strength of the Few definitely took me longer and it was more complicated, partly because again of this structural choice. I was kind of feeling my way a little bit. There's no real reference points for me to kind of books doing exactly the same thing, if that makes sense.
mm, yeah.
Um, and so it was a real kind of um, experimentation to start off with what was going to work best for the story and what was going to work best for me writing it. I know I ended up splitting the writing again, not trying not to go into spoilers too much, but I did effectively write one storyline and then another storyline and then another
Mm,
storyline as
okay.
opposed to doing them all at the same time
Yeah.
because that made enabled me to kind of give a different feel for those specific storylines, rather than constantly switching early between the three and maybe having them mix in a little bit too much or feel too similar or anything like that. So
Mm,
yeah, it
Yeah.
was an interesting process, that's for sure. I'm glad that uh, I don't have to figure it out again for book three, which I'm obviously writing at the moment. So
Yeah, it does feel a lot kind of like a blacksmith puzzle of just like these pieces, like you're like, how do these fit together? But they somehow do perfectly. I feel like Canius was similar in that mostly just like the further you got reading like Canius, you'd look back and like, oh, now I'm like slowly like the threads are coming together and it's like a zipper or something. Looking back, it's zipped together. Like, oh, that's how it works. Did you feel that kind of like into the unknown with Lycanius as well, or how are your processes similar and different in this series?
yeah, I mean yeah, you're right. It's in some ways it's very similar. And honestly, I thought very foolishly at the start of this series, I thought, oh, this will be simpler than than Lacanius was. And I don't know, Lacanius was very exacting.
Hmm.
Because the way I did time travel in particular meant that if you make a mistake, even a small mistake, you ruin the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was very obsessively going back and going, no, this okay, this meshes with this and this meshes with this, and here's the actual timeline all laid out on a normal time scale, and yes, this works. And this was a different kind of complexity, because I'm trying to do, it's not purely plot related, it's also quite character related. And so I'm trying to do things in each sort of strand of story that are both going to come together, but are also diverging in some ways.
Mm.
Um,
Hmm.
and getting that right was, this is why you do drafts.
Yeah.
I had a pretty scattershot first draft where I had some great stuff, and then I had a whole bunch of stuff that I scrapped because it wasn't working. But that's fine. That's just kind of the process. And I do think this is the hardest of the books of the series. Fingers crossed a little bit. Um, because
Mm.
now that I've got the base of it established here, I'm kind of feeling like it's a downhill run. Like I know what I'm doing, I know where I'm going. Um, I've established what I've established in book two. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it at the moment, so which is great. But
I do
we
think
will
it's
see.
funny to hear you say like you don't have to do that again when like knowing you, your next series is going to be even more complicated. I remember getting to the end of The Will of the Many, and then when the unveiling happens, I was like, how did I not see this coming? Like I loved Lycanius. How did I not like this had something like this had to happen? Like you have to introduce this type of complexity and like extra like I don't know. I was like, oh man, of course.
I I've had a bad, I mean, I guess in a good way, but I've had a bad when I first pitched Hierarchy, and I said, yep, I'm going to do shorter books. This is going to be like 160,
Haha.
170,000 word maximum. This is, I'm cool. This is the idea in my head, and this is how many words it's going to take. It's going to be fine. I'm going to get through these books so much faster than Lacanius.
Yeah,
And then yeah, sure enough, it's 240, 250,000 words again. And
yeah,
but it's fine. That's what the story takes.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, you're probably right. Whatever I do next is I'll probably just end up doing something hard again. But that's okay. I enjoy it, obviously. I enjoy those
Yeah,
complex plots. So that's that's fine.
yeah.
In reading Strength of the Few, I feel like that must have been a massive challenge to cut it down because, like you said, the scope has expanded so much, and there must have been some really hard decisions on what was included and what wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, I cut um I wouldn't say I cut it. I mean, I wouldn't say I cut anything that I am now like, oh man, I wish I'd kept this in. But I did cut a lot from each of those three uh strands of story, where it just, I looked at it and I went, this is nice, I guess, but it's just not necessary to push this story forward. And especially when you've got the three strands sort of not interacting, sort of I can't think of the word, one after the other. Uh,
Uh-huh.
your pacing has to be pretty tight for a
Yeah.
book two.
Right.
Yeah, they have to follow
It's
similar,
yeah,
like they have to hit the same beats at similar
exactly.
times.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Or at least like you want something happening
Yeah, in
as,
each.
whether things are slow, like that you always have to have something that's like really fast momentum at some point, what balance the
Exactly.
slow stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. So sticking with Licanius, one question we had from our Discord was, people. I think a lot of people enjoyed Licanius, but everyone kind of feels like the hierarchy has reached new heights here. I imagine you probably agree. What would you say is things you feel like you've improved on, or Or like what would you contribute this extended success to?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that my right. I mean, after 10 years, you hope that your writing improves for a start.
Right,
So
right.
I think that my writing has improved. After Lacanius, I actually went back sort of not too long after Light of All That Falls came out, and I went back and I looked at all the 3 and 4 star reviews across the series. So people who had enjoyed the books but felt like there was room to improve, and kind of tried to take on board the commonalities in terms of the things that I needed to hone. Um,
Mm,
and I think that was a really good decision because it means I think I wrote Lacanius very much for me. So I wrote Lacanius going, well, this is it's my first series, and I'm kind of fumbling in the dark a lot of the way because you never really know what you're doing till you're doing it. But I wrote it as the book that I would want to read, and I focused on the things that kind of uh, would give me that dopamine hit sort of thing, I
Yeah.
guess. Whereas Hierarchy, I took a step back and I went, okay, this is not just for me. This is I'm sharing a story now rather than writing it. I'm kind of trying to think of the things that it's not that I necessarily don't care about, but that I'm less focused on. I want to try and focus on those things more so that a wider variety of readers can enjoy the story. Um, and yeah, I think that that paid off. Just uh, even even for me, if that makes sense. Like I kind of look back now from where I am on the first 2 books of Hierarchy, and I can go, cool. These things that maybe I avoided tackling in Lacanius, um, now that I've done them, I feel like these are actually better books. Like even for
mm.
me personally, if I went and read them, I feel like I would enjoy these more. So yeah.
I think that's a fine edge to walk reading reading reviews. Just
Oh yeah.
like obviously there is a lot of positive you can get out of it, and if you want to
Hmm.
improve, you have to listen to criticism across everything. But man, that's a dark place to be sometimes on social media.
Yeah, I mean, it is, that was my big because I generally try and avoid reviews. I try and not good reviews, bad reviews, whatever. I try and not get uh too deep into it because it just gets in your head too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, and when I went to do that for Lacanius, I think it was good in that there were so many of them at that point that I could see the commonalities and I could go, okay, you read like 2 or 3 and you're like, no, I'm okay at that. I don't need to improve that. And then you read 10 and you're like, all right, all right, all right, guys. Um, and yeah, and sometimes you'll read a review and you go, nah, I just disagree. We just have different tastes, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, like you said, I think reading reviews generally is a slippery slope. Uh, I haven't really done it. I know the reviews for Will of the Many were quite good. I will go on Goodreads, so I see the overall kind of scores and stuff like that. But no, I try not to read the reviews too much.
Mm. Well, I'm glad you threw out any 1 or 2 star reviews because I doubt those would be helpful to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
I like this question. So your series lend themselves to a lot of theory crafting, which, Reddit, etc., everywhere online. Do you ever pay attention to those types of things? Have you stumbled across anything that maybe someone's guessed, or has that influenced anything you've done?
It's never, it's never influenced anything I've done. I sort of similar to reviews. I try and avoid. Um, checking in on things online. Partly because I think I'd be really annoyed if I came across something and I was like, oh, that's better than what I've written.
Yeah.
Uh, because I don't know, people
Yeah.
are really creative with with their ideas. And there's there's that chance of it happening, and you don't want to be writing something and go, oh, now I'm disappointed in this. Um, so that's part of it, but also I'm very intent on writing the story that I've got planned out, and I'm very intent on writing the story that I want to tell. Kind of one of the reasons that I guess creatively I wanted to be a writer because you're doing it yourself. There's no I think we see it a lot with TV series and things that have a broader creative sort of input. Sometimes you get story by committee,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
it doesn't have anything unique about it. It's like, yeah, sure, you've taken all the things that the focus groups will say are good and popular, and you've gone very broad with this, and that's great. But it's just not very distinctive. So I think that's something that I really avoid is checking out other people's ideas online because I just yeah, I don't want to be influenced basically.
Right, right.
Yeah. That'd be hard. I feel like I would constantly be like, are they picking up on the breadcrumbs? Am I like dropping them too like am I too heavy-handed here? But yeah,
And I
probably
mean,
best.
yeah, I've got beta readers. I've got beta readers and
That's true.
editors, and
Yeah.
and these are and they're great. They're great, and those are the people that I'm really like. You know, you listen to them. You make sure you're
Yeah.
listening to them. And they're great at picking up when I'm too blunt with something or too subtle with something. And I can then go to them and say, "Oh, did you pick up on this or this or this?" And if they say, "No, I completely missed all of that," then you go back and you tweak.
Mm.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that I could stay off of the theory crafting sites because, like,
I
for
love it.
example, when Wind and Truth came out, there were a couple big reveals that everyone had kind of figured out way in advance. And I thought Brandon did a good job with those things, but we basically kind of already knew it was coming, and it kind of ruined it a little bit. So
Yeah, it
that's something
takes
I'm trying to do, avoid that
yeah,
stuff.
for sure.
Yeah.
What is one piece of writing advice that, or like philosophy that you try to stick to, or something that's really stuck with you over the years?
Um, yeah, the probably the one. Well, I mean, yeah, one of the things that's really stuck with me is very early on, I was very fortunate to get Patrick Rothfuss to go through an early copy of The Shadow of What Was Lost. So this is 15 years ago now, and then had a conversation with him online about it, and he was fantastic. But one of the things that he said that really stuck with me throughout Lacanius as well, but it was really relevant writing first person, single point of view for Will of the Many, was the
Mm,
way that he thought about plot and how, you've got your book and you've got it's almost like a graph, like a with a bunch of curves on it, and you've got um your overarching plot, and it's going from the beginning of the graph to the end, and then uh, under that, you've got a whole bunch of smaller arcs that are overlapping. So you should always be starting a new sub arc, I guess, before you finish off the
Mm.
one before it. So you've always got something beginning with an end of another one in sight, and so it just keeps the momentum of the
Yeah.
plot going. And it's a really clear, concise way to think about it. And like I said, with first person perspective, especially, when you've got three storylines or four storylines, it's easier because you actually have distinct arcs that you're doing.
hmm
Um, but you really got to think about, okay, I'm starting, it's all through the eyes of this character, but I'm starting this plot point here, and before I end this, I want to make sure I'm starting the next thing. And yeah, so that's stuck with me for a long time. I think it's really useful for me.
Kind of
Yeah,
what we
I
were
like.
talking about with the point of view balancing in Strength of the Few.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I can very much see how you're doing that in book two as well.
absolutely.
Yeah, just always keeping like the tension as like maximizing that as high as possible. So even when something resolves, there's something else that's driving you forward.
Yeah.
It's a cool idea.
So without
Um,
doing any spoilers here for book two,
yeah,
I don't think it's a spoiler. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that the magic system advances. We learn more. I think
Yep.
that's pretty natural expectation. So what's your approach to doing that in general? Like, how do you decide how many details to reveal and when? And I know Sanderson's thing is like you reveal as much as you need to in order to make the resolution or the use of the magic make sense. Is that kind of where you land as well, or do you have any other takes on it?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think that's the correct take. Um, and I think that I've noticed in a few other books that I've read recently, I think some people take magic systems a little bit too far, or they focus on it too much, and you get pages of exposition of, this is the mechanics of how my system works,
Hmm.
and a lot of it isn't necessary. So I've got for hierarchy, I've got a pretty hard magic system in the background. Um, I remember with Will of the Many, I did like a day of math, figuring out how the transvect would work and how much power it would. Like I was doing
Uh,
physics and looking
that's
up stuff
great.
online, and so I've got all this stuff in the background, but obviously I'm not going to put that in the book because that's too much information. Um, and at the end of the day, yeah, you just want readers to know what the limitations of the magic system are. Um, and so it's not a surprise when somebody uses it and it's suddenly a get out of jail free card. Um, and like you were saying, it's got to be so that the resolution is satisfying. But otherwise, I'm very much a proponent of keeping it not vague, but a little bit magical, I guess. You want there to be a bit of a gray area in there where it's not just a made up science.
Yeah, I feel like hard magic systems are definitely like in vogue right now,
Mm.
um, and I think they sometimes can go too far where, like you said, they don't feel like magic anymore, and you need a balance of like this is fantasy as much as like I don't know, I might classify this as like a alternate, I don't know, sci-fi fantasy in some way in a lot of
Yep.
ways, but yeah, I think the magic needs that like mystery to it. Otherwise, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like fantasy anymore. But
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Plus, it's fun as a reader to have to figure out what the
yeah,
details are. Make your readers work a
yeah.
little bit, make us use our brains.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Don't just make, well, don't make us go on Reddit and just have all the theories fed to us.
Uh-huh.
So hard not to do that though. There's so many good ones.
So maybe
Uh,
this question's not fair because you're currently writing book three of four, but do you have any thoughts for a next series, or do you ever anticipate like returning to a world that you've written in before?
Yeah. I've actually got so it's not uh yeah, it's not announced and it's a much smaller thing, but I've got a project coming out next year, end of next year, which I've written already.
Oh,
Um which is it actually just started as a side project that I was writing in my spare time. And kind of hit the point where I was like, oh, this is a novel now. And but I'm very excited about that. I imagine that we're waiting to do the official reveal until after Strength of the Few is
yeah.
released, so it doesn't take too much emphasis away from that. But I've got that coming. So that's actually a sci-fi. Um, And yeah, again, it's a bit different from other things I've written. And it's shorter. It's actually shorter. So so it's a yeah, it's a lot more manageable. But beyond hierarchy, I do want to go back and write the Aelric and Dacia story for Lacanius, which is something that I promised at the end of Light of All That Falls, in 2019, and obviously I'm
Right. I
still
remember that
busy
now.
with
Yeah.
yeah, still busy with hierarchy. And I've got that story, very much planned out. I don't think it'll be a big deal to write, but I don't want to do it while I'm writing hierarchy because again, working in that world, especially working in that world within the timeline that's currently established, I'm going to want to go back and really make sure I'm not making mistakes.
Yeah.
It's not really a secondary project, that one. So I'd say that'll be the first thing that I do when Hierarchy's finished is do that story. I've got this other project that's coming out next year, which I'm excited about. Beyond that, nothing, 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 nothing planned at this stage. I've always kind of got ideas. I've got a document of, I guess, interesting ideas that I haven't been able to use in my existing projects that I'm kind
Mm.
of enthusiastic about. Um, so there's always more material, but yeah, no concrete plans yet.
You don't have the headspace to write four very long books in one series and come up with your next one at the same time.
Yeah.
And I
No,
I
no.
barely have the headspace to like comprehend the plot of book two, so let alone write it and know everything that's happening.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap up our part one review. So, James, thank you for joining. We're going to keep on recording
Okay.
part two, but check it out when Strength of the View comes out sometime after November 11th of 2025.